Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Friday, February 5th. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Tribulsi. Vaccinations in San Diego County are falling short in communities hit hardest by the pandemic. Health officials believe that's due in part to limits on who can be vaccinated right now. But KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman says officials will be hitting South Bay streets to fix that.
I'm very happy because I'm going to get my vaccine.
Thank you very much. Here at the Chula Vista Superstation, the line behind me is moving very quickly. And starting next week, county officials are launching a new pilot program to make sure everyone in the South Bay who's eligible gets one of these.
Are you translating for him? Oh, then you're okay.
Latinos make up more than 50% of the county's coronavirus cases, but the county's vaccination dashboard as of Friday shows just 13% of people identifying as Latino have actually gotten the vaccination, while half of doses are going to those who identify as white.
We know that the vaccine numbers in our communities of color remain low.
Starting next week, community health partners will hit the streets in South Bay cities, trying to make sure everyone who is eligible for a vaccination is able to book an appointment. Many people we spoke to today at the Chula Vista site say they live in the South Bay.
I live here actually in Main Street in Chula Vista. Yeah, and we researched which one was closer, which was this here.
Actually, I was really surprised. Yes, it was very quick.
It was pretty quick, pretty fast. Even to do the appointment, it was really easy.
Patricia Mahira was able to get her 77-year-old mother an appointment today and thinks county officials are not leaving the South Bay behind.
Pretty good. I think it's working.
County-sponsored vaccination sites are still only taking appointments for seniors 65 and over, plus healthcare workers.
Obviously, to protect myself, my family first, and then secondary, and most importantly, really, actually, it would be to protect the kids from me and me from them.
With officials not getting the amount of supply they want, they will now be prioritizing second doses over new ones. Appointments can be booked through the county's website. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
And we have a new feature at kpbs.org, a map that shows vaccination clinic locations across the county. You'll also find links to make an appointment online if you are eligible. It's been a struggle nationwide and locally getting kids back to school. Elementary school students in the Poway Unified School District are now back on campus for half-day sessions. KPBS education reporter Joe Hong looks at how that's working out.
How are you, my friends? Happy Friday.
They are so happy to be back on campus. I'm so happy to have them on campus. A school without children is kind of sad, actually, because it's too quiet.
Naomi Lukushevsky teaches transitional kindergarten and kindergarten at Pomerado Elementary in Poway. She's back on campus this week where she's teaching morning and afternoon sessions after Poway Unified resumed in-person instruction. Lukushevsky says so far she's seen a huge improvement in her students.
But I've noticed here they're much more engaged. I'm getting much more response. They're talking to me. They're talking to each other. And toward the end, they're virtual. It was crickets sometimes.
And she said even her youngest students are following all the safety procedures. They're washing their hands regularly and maintaining social distance.
They have to stay within, I call it stay within your bubble. They have what I call space bubble. The way I teach them for that is if you stick your hands out and you can touch somebody that's too close, that's outside your space bubble.
With case numbers in San Diego County slowly declining and with safety procedures in place, district officials say they hope to be able to keep campuses open. Carol Osborne is the Associate Superintendent of Learning Support Services at Poway Unified.
And we've been successful not having any transmission on campus. And so we wanted to make sure that we weren't getting relaxed in those protocols of physical distancing, making sure desks were 6 feet apart. Even if kids sit on the carpet, they should be 6 feet apart.
Osborne said the district cannot reopen middle and high schools until the county enters the red tier for COVID-19 case rates. Joe Hong, KPBS News.
Escondido Union School District also opened this week, where more than 100 students and employees have been quarantined. District officials have said these case numbers were expected. The first jobs report of the year shows a sluggish economic recovery. The unemployment rate dropped to 6.3%, but just 49,000 jobs were added in January. President Joe Biden took the opportunity to pitch his nearly $2 trillion relief plan. A major sticking point for Republicans is the amount of the stimulus checks and who should be eligible. But the president says he is not budging.
I'm not cutting the size of the checks. They're going to be $1,400, period. That's what the American people were promised.
The House passed a budget resolution today after the Senate passed its version overnight that will allow Democrats to pass a relief package without a single Republican vote. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says they hope to send a bill to the Senate within 2 weeks. San Diego is getting more than $45 million in state funding to help people struggling to pay rent. Combined with federal funding, more than $87 million is available to help families and individuals who have been devastated financially by the pandemic. You can find information about the application process on the San Diego Housing Commission's website. Usually, Super Bowl Sunday means watch parties, snacking, and lots of cheering. KPBS North County reporter Jacob Ayers says this year's celebrations will likely look different.
While COVID-19 case rates are trending downward in San Diego County and across California, officials are worried Super Bowl gatherings could lead to another surge of infections. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention issued new guidelines on attending celebrations ahead of Super Bowl Sunday. Their top piece of advice: watch the game at home with the people you live with.
Let's not have the Super Bowl become the next beginning of a huge surge here in California. You can celebrate the game, watch it with your household. And if you are with people, another household in the backyard watching it, keep your distance, keep your mask on, try to share as little as you can, accept the cheers of the game when it's appropriate.
With the statewide ban on outdoor dining recently lifted, restaurants have started seating customers once again. In Los Angeles County, restaurants are currently banned from turning on their TVs, but that's not the case in San Diego, and that could result in some large crowds on football's biggest day. Local bars are gearing up for that.
We've got 17 TVs. We've got pretty much seating in every possible spot that we could. We're ready. Nobody knows what's going to happen. You don't know if people have already planned their house parties or whatnot, but hopefully everybody's itching to come out.
Jamie Houtman is the general manager of Union Kitchen and Tap Encinitas. He stressed his establishment's focus on COVID-19 safety protocols and expanded outdoor dining options. But he and other restaurant bar managers in Encinitas are expecting packed houses on Sunday.
When you've missed out on what is probably millions of dollars in sales and a hell of a lot of profit every single day counts, which is why everybody scrambled so hard to get open.
For fans who plan to gather away from home, the CDC recommends contacting the venue ahead of time to ensure COVID-19 safety protocols are being followed, in addition to practicing social distancing and wearing a mask. The same goes for at-home gatherings that involve people who don't live together. The NFL itself is requiring masks for the 22,000 fans who will be in Raymond James Stadium in Tampa for Sunday's matchup between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Jacob Ayers, KPBS News.
New Supervisor Nora Vargas is the first Latina and immigrant on the County Board of Supervisors. KPBS reporter Max Rivlin-Nadler looks at how growing up on both sides of the border shaped Vargas's political perspective.
Happy Sunday from National City, where it's actually raining a lot, but I'm knocking on doors.
Nora Vargas walked in the rain in National City, going door to door asking people to support her campaign. This was during the primary elections last year. She was running for County Board of Supervisors, where there hadn't been a competitive election in 25 years. So when Vargas would show up at her neighbors' doors asking for their vote, it took some trust building.
Folks in the community told me, and mostly in Spanish, right? We're going to give you a chance, and they would call me Norita. My name is Nora, but for some reason they all all the older ladies would call me Norita, and they're like, Norita, we're going to give you a chance. But we're going to be watching, because politicians come here, they ask us for things, and then they never come back. And I think that's the piece that's really important, right? We have to deliver for our communities.
Latinos in San Diego County had never been elected to the Board of Supervisors, in a county where they make up 34% of the population. but that changed in November's election.
The results are showing Nora Vargas with a healthy lead at 54.5% to Ben Hueso's 45.5%.
Vargas was born in Tijuana. Her mother was a U.S. citizen, her father a Mexican citizen. Going back and forth between two nations is where she believes her political journey began.
I think when I realized that I was in a very unique state because I was able to cross the border and do all of the, I was able to travel and to learn things. I think that's when it hit me, right? Sort of like, what can I do to make the world better for other people? And I think it was really when I realized, wow, like there's so many opportunities for us to really make a difference in a different way, and politics was an avenue for me to do that.
For Latinas in San Diego, there wasn't a roadmap to political power, so Vargas had to look elsewhere.
To be a Mexicana, a Latina, and then later on, what my friends would say, an honorary Chicana, I count my blessings that I grew up in a family where, going out away to college was actually encouraged, right? That I needed to get an education, that I needed to see the world, that I needed to learn and to make a difference.
Watching her own mother work in local nonprofits and her grandmother run a cross-border business, she told me they were unintentional feminists, a perspective she brought to a Jesuit university in San Francisco.
And having those conversations about what feminism was and what women's rights were, and then me trying to really figure out, well, what does that mean to communities of color, for people who don't have access or opportunities?
Vargas found a place at Planned Parenthood, where she eventually became an executive.
I was a patient at Planned Parenthood. In my household, we didn't talk about sex or sexuality, reproductive health care, right? It wasn't, there was a lot of myths, and I think in our community, sometimes still in the Latino community, there's a lot of sort of taboo around speaking about sexuality.
But her experience at Planned Parenthood and as community college board president pales in comparison to the job ahead of her, dealing with the economic and healthcare fallout of the pandemic. Vargas believes that reaching the community in ways they'll not only understand, but also trust, is the key to ending the pandemic in Latino border communities.
I'm talking and then I can do code switch like that, and I can empiezo a platicar en español y por qué las cosas son importantes. And I think that, I did it today, right? We were talking about environmental justice and because language shouldn't be a barrier. And then all of a sudden I say to them, muchísimas gracias, gracias por acompañarnos, thank you for being here, we appreciate it, and we're going to work on getting you the information that you need. And I started getting texts from folks saying, like, thank you for doing that. It means the world to them. But, it's who I am. It's my community. And I want them to understand that they're being heard.
For Vargas, activating the next generation of Latina leaders is the most important part of her journey. She's hired several young community organizers to work for her.
My commitment is to try to make sure that the system is really shaken so that the opportunities are there for women and communities of color to rise and have those opportunities to make those decisions about the future of our communities.
Max Rivlin-Adler, KPBS News.
An emotional and personal plea to find a missing Chula Vista mother. Today, relatives of Maya Millet asked the public to help find the 39-year-old mother of 3 who disappeared a month ago from her home.
I'm pleading, anyone out there, please, anybody, somewhere, somehow, might know where my sister whereabouts is. Please bring her home. We need our sister, her kids, they need
Chula Vista's police chief says this case is a priority. Several Find Maya rallies have been held and police are looking into all leads. If you have any information, contact Chula Vista Police or Crime Stoppers. The Navy has come out with its long-awaited report on racial bias. Task Force 1 Navy was created after the death of George Floyd at the hands of Minneapolis police. As KPBS military reporter Steve Walsh tells us, Navy leadership says they intend to create lasting change.
There are only a handful of African-American admirals or flag officers in the Navy, and few people of color in some of the Navy's most celebrated communities, such as naval aviation, headquartered here in San Diego. It's where the head of the task force, Rear Admiral Alvin Halsey, was based until just recently.
I'll tell you, being here, at this point, one of 8 black flag officers in the Navy, it's a lonely spot. But yes, I do know that I think the Navy's committed. I think we can gain some ground here in what we're doing.
The task force worried their effort to root out discrimination would be caught up in the past administration's targeting of diversity training, says Dr. Charles Barber. He's the consultant who worked on the report. Some of the things will now be put back into the draft, he says, with the new attitude at the White House.
The concepts of white privilege and how discussions center around, white privilege. So those are the things that we want to put back in.
Critics say the report stresses inclusion and diversity, but didn't look more directly at overt racism. John Clark is a recently retired commander who writes about his experience as an African American in the Navy.
To me, what was disappointing, what was not in the report. There was not a direct discussion of de facto racism and segregation, of the current state of the Navy and why we are where we are.
A recently released 2017 Pentagon survey showed roughly 1 in 5 sailors and officers experienced racial and ethnic discrimination or harassment that year, more than any other service. Clark says the Navy's process for filing discrimination complaints is broken.
I know that we have people in our services that don't want racism in our ranks, and they are willing to step up and root it out and speak up when and where they can. But at the same time, you have some other people, mainly older white men, that want to retain that position of power.
Thursday, the new Secretary of Defense ordered a 60-day stand-down to talk about racial extremism throughout the military. The Navy's report didn't address hate groups in the ranks. Despite what was left out, Barber, the Navy's consultant, says he plans to stay on to administer the findings, which were based on dozens of focus groups held behind closed doors with sailors.
Continuously looking at culture over time, so that way we can continuously make some progress. We don't want to keep talking about this stuff years and years from now.
Rear Admiral Halsey, the leader of the task force, says a top priority now is to bring more people of color and women into leadership roles.
It's not a one and done. So imagine every 6 months, this issue is not going to go away. It's going to be embedded in our training throughout the life of a sailor, and our senior leaders are be constantly engaged.
And he says the problem won't go away just because a change in administration or the recent confirmation of the first African-American Secretary of Defense. Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
The Pentagon will deploy more than 1,100 troops to help administer COVID vaccines. 2 of the 5 new military teams will be sent to vaccination centers opening in Los Angeles and Oakland. Defense officials at FEMA have discussed using up to 10,000 troops to reach the Biden administration's goal of administering 450,000 shots a day.
Some pretty dry, mild weather that we're having as we head through the next couple of hours, but eventually throughout the weekend we're going to see that onshore flow return, and when it does, there will be some coastal clouds for us to contend with, but not a lot of active weather. That's the good news. Satellite radar, just as you'd expect it, fairly quiet out there, not a whole lot happening over the past couple of hours, and again, not really anything through the next few. Tonight, temperatures falling back into the 40s or 30s. Notice out there, still pretty quiet. As you look towards Escondido, 39 is the low, San Diego 49 for you. And as you head towards some of the mountains here, Mount Laguna coming in at 43. Futurecast shows there is really nothing going on. We don't even have really any coastal clouds to contend with because, again, we have the offshore flow still holding on, but we will eventually see more of that break down into Sunday where we could have a few more coastal clouds. But tomorrow, dry, pleasant, missing out on all the action as temperatures cruise their way back to the 60s or 70s. Yes, looking nice here across so much of the area. 77 for Borrego Springs and San Diego coming in the mid-60s. As we transition through time here Sunday, still quiet and dry. All the activity remains towards some of the Rockies and even east of the Rockies, while sunshine sticks around for us. but it does mean a little bit more of an onshore flow coming in. So we will have a few clouds to contend with as we get into Monday. Notice towards the coast, mainly cloudy, especially throughout the morning hours, and then we'll see some sunshine try to break out late, and we'll keep that mix of clouds and sun heading into Tuesday and Wednesday. Temperatures, though, all the while in the 60s. We do cool off, though, towards the middle of next week. Inland location, 70s, gorgeous, gorgeous weekend here. And yes, adding the clouds then in for Monday and Tuesday with some of those extra clouds, we can expect to be a bit cooler. That's true as well in some of the mountains where we hang out in the lower 50s throughout the week. Still looking fairly good out there, though. And for the deserts, a couple of extra clouds added towards Tuesday, Wednesday. Temperatures back towards the mid and upper 70s. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Melissa Constanzer.
The Poway Unified School District wants to lease to Costco land that was once meant for a middle school. But as iNewsSource investigative reporter Jennifer Bowman explains, residents are pushing back.
The 27-acre lot at Camino del Sur and Carmel Valley Road is surrounded by homes, a church, and not much else. Years ago, the land was set aside for a future middle school. Now, Poway Unified says leasing the land to Costco instead would help the district cut a multi-million-dollar budget deficit. Residents say they were caught off guard by a possible deal and formed Protect Our Community Now to fight back. Here's founder Gianni Nguyen.
You don't do this to your constituents and to the community and not be responsible or not communicate with them about it. So what happens to my taxes? Why am I paying all these years of taxes for a middle school that doesn't exist, and all of a sudden it's, wait, you're renting it to Costco?
The group says Costco's offer undervalues the land. It also has filed a lawsuit accusing the district of violating the state's open meeting law. Poway Unified officials declined to comment on the litigation, but told iNewsSource they're working to keep residents informed. For now, the district has delayed a final decision and has scheduled 2 community meetings next month on the lease. For KPBS, I'm iNewsSource investigative reporter Jennifer Bowman.
iNewsSource is an independently funded nonprofit partner of KPBS. Even the ads during Sunday's big game will look a little different this year. SDSU's Miro Kopik has more on the pandemic's impact on the Super Bowl in the Friday Business Report.
Because of the pandemic, the tone and the manner is going to change drastically. When the pandemic hit, a lot of advertisers said, hey, we're here for you, and they were fairly somber ads. This time, because of the fatigue around the pandemic, what we're going to see is kind of 3 things. We're going to see a lot of humor, and I've seen a lot of these ads, and they're very funny. A lot about hope. And the third area they're going to focus on is togetherness, is how do we as people hang out together, whether with family, with friends, or in the great outdoors. A couple of San Diego companies are going to be in the Super Bowl this year, Cutwater Spirits, and then also a company that was founded in San Diego called Mr. Squatch, which is a soap for men. The Super Bowl is the Academy Awards for advertisers. These companies are spending an average of $5.6 million for a Super Bowl ad versus a couple $100,000 to $500,000 or $1 million for a regular ad.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, the economy continues an uneven recovery as daily coronavirus deaths top 5,000 for the first time. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Oscar-winning actor Christopher Plummer has died at the age of 91. A trained Shakespearean actor, he is perhaps best known for playing Captain Von Trapp in The Sound of Music. Plummer won a Supporting Actor Academy Award for his role in the 2010 film Beginners and was nominated as recently as 2018 for All the Money in the World. This weekend, moviegoers can enjoy Hitchcock's notorious Under the Stars or stay home to watch a film about how Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein. KPBS cinema junkie Beth Accomando has the details.
Doug Yeagley's charming and magical Cinema Under the Stars has been closed since December. But with COVID-19 cases dropping, he was relieved to see the state declare last Monday that some businesses, including an outdoor venue like his, could reopen. So this weekend, he turns to a cinema classic to entice people out of quarantine to come watch Cary Grant seduce a notorious Ingrid Bergman into a dangerous game of espionage.
Let's not go out for dinner.
Let's stay. We have to eat.
That famous kiss scene in Notorious faced restrictive 1940s censorship rules that said a kiss could only last 3 seconds. But director Alfred Hitchcock had a clever solution. Simply have his gorgeous stars engage in a series of 3-second kisses in a tight 2-shot to steam up audiences. In addition to the heat generated on screen, Cinema Under the Stars will warm audiences with heaters. And if there's rain, a retractable roof will be pulled out to cover the cinema and keep everyone dry. There are safety rules in place as well. People are required to wear masks, and seating capacity has been reduced so seats can be socially distanced in pairs.
If I cannot inspire love, I will cause fear.
Shudder, the horror streaming channel, has a broad definition of what constitutes horror, and that means we can get films that challenge expectations about what the genre can be. A Nightmare Wakes looks to Mary Shelley's writing of her famous novel Frankenstein.
I wish to tremble.
Writer-director Nora Uncle's imagined scenario suggests that miscarriages and infant deaths might be the kind of darkness that prompted an 18-year-old to conceive of a story about the birth of a reanimated creature. The film gets into Shelley's mind and lets us see her creative process in ways that will make you want to revisit her novel with fresh eyes. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley. And by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.